It's me. It's the G.O.C. Welcome back to Chaos Corner here in the lounge at Chaos Headquarters. We are going back in the time machine once again here on episode 8 in the new series of the WWWF Old School here on Guardian of Chaos, the YouTube channel. Fans, you're not going to want to miss it. We're going back to August 29th, 1977, at the Mecca of the sports world and professional wrestling, and that would be Madison Square Garden. You're not going to want to miss it. The crowds back then in the 70s, mostly adult, sold out, standing room only. Again, 1977 at that point. What am I, a mere 13 years old? So you can see the influences in what we're doing here on the Guardian of Chaos YouTube channel. You can't get to where you want to go, or even where you are, until you understand where you've been. So I'm going to give you a little history. School is in session. Sit back, watch, listen, and learn as we go back. Again, as I said, you could follow along on the Peacock, the cock, if you will, and the WWE Classic Network. Again, August 29th, 1977, we're going to hop into the time machine, episode 8. And who knew back then it was on HBO? I almost forgot that HBO carried the WWWF. And let's also remember that Vince McMahon himself, Vince Jr., from as early as 1973, did all the broadcasting solo in the booth. And here we are in 77, and it's still Vince solo on the commentary. So say what you want about McMahon. He certainly does know the business. Whether he screws it up, doesn't screw it up, no matter what he did, destroyed it, made it, it doesn't really matter, does it? He's been around for a long, long time. So kick back, relax, follow me on all social media platforms. We're going to jump off all of those and get on to Guardian of Chaos YouTube channel. All right, fans, August 29th, 1977. Let's sit back, flashback, a little cheers here. I've gotten a lot of feedback from people in the comment section and really enjoying this new series, this episode here on Guardian of Chaos on YouTube, obviously on Twitter in real time, at Big Daddy G.O.C. And the G.O.C. stands for the Guardian of Chaos. Instagram, it's the Guardian of Chaos. On Facebook, there's 2 accounts, J Brony, that's right, J Brony, and Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian. Follow me on Gitter, Gab, Truth Social, Rumble. I cover it all in the IWC. Everything from my home at Paradise Alley, Pro Wrestling, to the WWE, AEW, the NWA, Impact, New Japan, Ring of Honor, MLW. The list goes on and on of what I cover here on the Guardian of Chaos YouTube channel. We're coming up on close to 2,000 videos. Check out the photos at the community section on the Guardian of Chaos YouTube. You're not going to want to miss it. Let's get back into the time machine. I like to make these anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, covering the full entire card. As I said, you can follow along on a network, and we'll pump these out onto YouTube. So don't you dare miss it. I'll say that to say this because I tell it like it is. The first match, right out of the rip, the differences between old school and what's going on here in 2023. I don't have to tell you guys. I don't want to sound like a bitter old guy, but the crowds, the reaction, as I said, mostly adult, sold out standing room, the melting pot of New York City, the different cultures, races, ethnicities, you'd never see anything like it. And certainly not today in 2023. We start off with the Paramount High Chief, 275 pounds, from the Isle of Samoa, the one who started it all, Peter Maivia, with the traditional Samoan tattoos from the waist on down to the calves, front and back. And allegedly, if you listen to people tell it, it usually takes 4 months to fill out the High Chief tattoos that Peter Maivia had. Supposedly, he did it in 4 days and almost died of lead poisoning. Fun fact from back in the day. And here he was taking on former champion, a very underrated grappler from Buzzards Creek, Oregon, 287 pounds. A big guy in his own right, tall, lanky, rangy, Stan the Man Stasiak, who I happened to meet in the mid-70s in the old New Haven Arena, New Haven Coliseum as a young boy. Stan the Man. Howard Finkel is the ring announcer here in 1977. Impeccable. God rest his soul, Howard Finkel, one of the best in the business, if not the best. So right away, you know that Stasiak's using the big right hands. He's using the chokes, playing the heel, playing the crowd. Stasiak was known for the heart punch and had allegedly stopping a couple of wrestlers' hearts in the ring, a la Ox Baker. But we'll put that aside. When kayfabe was real and using the different angles, and you know what you're going to get out of Peter Maivia if you go back and do your research about the High Chief, who started the bloodline, the Samoan dynasty, basically, you want to say, and shaking his ass, doing the wiggle wiggle, doing the dancing, playing the ukulele. There was really nobody like the High Chief, Peter Maivia, for his time. The arm drags, the arm bars, the chops of Maivia built like a fire hydrant. And the way he fired up, as I said, all the baby faces back then in the 70s, and the crowd reaction. I've been saying it as the common theme of what goes on for back in the 70s. And again, you can't get to where you're going or where you are until you understand where you've been and how the differences was from back in the 70s and here in 1977 as opposed to today. Look at how many years in between, and it still applies. So you know what you get with High Chief Peter Maivia. In the end, in this bout to open up, talk about an opening match for an unbelievable card, Stan Stasiak goes with that taped fist to hit Maivia, misses, hits the ring post, ends up falling out of the ring, which there was not a lot of out-of-ring action back in the day, especially in the 70s in the WWWF. Now, when we cover the NWA, which we've done in the past, you'll see the differences in the organizations from Mid-South to Georgia to Florida to the Northeast and the bigger arenas and bigger buildings, and just wrestling was different as opposed to the smaller venues in the South. Let that sink in. History, that's what you're learning here. Wrestling 101. I hope you're taking notes. So 7 minutes, 36 seconds after Stan the Man hit the ring post, a count out and your winner, High Chief Peter Maivia. What is it nowadays in 2023? One fall, 10 minutes? Back then, one fall, 20 minutes. Old school. We go on to the next bout here, August 29th, 1977. Before we get on to the next match, Pehe Aoi Melihini Kane, Pupule Wiki Wiki, Aloha and Mahalo to all my Samoan and Polynesian friends out there on the islands, a la High Chief Peter Maivia. Talk about bloodline. I couldn't let that one go. That's for sure. You got to watch Maivia. Go back so you can appreciate what you're watching today in 2023. We go on to the second match. It's a 2 out of 3 falls, 1 hour time limit. You don't get that in 2023 with storytelling and booking and playing the crowd and sportsmanship, showmanship, I want to say, as you did back here in the 70s. From the Isle of Malta, 273 pounds, one solid veteran, one cagey son of a bitch, the big Baron Mikael Cicluna, teams up with, and this is where he got really crazy with the animal gimmick, as I told you from when we first encountered the animal here on this series in episode 1 or 2, when he was really not quite full-fledged animal yet. Well, here in 77, he certainly is off his rocker, 278 pounds out of Detroit, taking on the young face team, Auckland, New Zealand, Tony Garea, 245 pounds, and the Polish Prince from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 247 pounds, Larry Zbyszko. So this 2 out of 3 falls, 1 hour time limit, cops everywhere. If you look back on these videos, as I look and refer to my notes, you guys know I'm always prepared. Otherwise, why would you be here? One man, unique, unedited, unscripted. You don't get anything else like this live to tape in the IWC. You just don't. I let you into my home and let you understand what we're trying to do here. So cops everywhere. That was the common theme in the 70s because the crowds were just jam-packed, 20, 22,000 every time, 18,000, overflow to the Felt Forum, so on and so forth. It really was unbelievable, the reactions. So right before the match starts, obviously the animal and Cicluna as the heels attack Gurria and Zbyszko. All four are in the ring at any one time. On Steele and Cicluna's part, typical heel tactics, keeping it simple, the simplicity of what I've always said in finishers and what the business was about back then when kayfabe was still alive. I'm repeating it, I get it. Body slams, double teaming, still using the tag team rope there tied to the corner. And of course, the Animal, all the heels back in the day, known for the old foreign object, playing it to the referees. So this was when, again, I'll say it again, as the Animal was full-fledged Animal, untying the turnbuckles, untying the tag ropes, using them as weapons. Again, if you go back, and I know I'm going over and repeating this stuff, as you go back and look at the history of how Steel evolved, you'll pick up on what I'm saying. And then, of course, Gurria and Zbyszko, more agile, more stamina, the smaller of the two, using the tag ropes. I like that concept. We've seen to miss this now in this day and age. All four guys are in the ring during this bout. It turned into a complete melee. Straight two falls to Gurria and Zbyszko, but entertaining. Cicluna and Steele, what kind of tag team is that? So not everything is perfect. I give you the good, the bad, and the ugly here, no matter what genre we're in. But 2 out of 3 falls, a beautiful sunset flip by Tony Gurria, where he gets the pin on Baron Mikel Cicluna, actually from the top rope, after I saw the replay and watched it anyway, like I said, on the network. Gurria was a hell of a hand, a hell of a wrestler, and that sunset flip that he would do from the top rope is pretty amazing for the time. So he ends up pinning Cicluna. They win in 2 straight falls, 8 minutes 52 seconds. Gurria and the Polish Prince, Larry Zbyszko. On the third bout here in 1977, August 29th, Madison Square Garden, and I always talk about the placement of the matches and what's going on here in the old school WWWF. Here's the main event, basically. 1 fall, 2 a finish for the WWWF title. It's Superstar Billy Graham with the Grand Wizard. We've already covered when Pedro was the champ in 73, San Martino in 75, 77. Now Superstar Billy Graham. So we're covering different title reigns back during this era, the golden era. A lot of people say it was the 80s, not to the G.O.C. Again, 77. So I'm 14 years old at the time, I believe, 13, 14 years old. Let that marinate. So we go on to the next match. I said Superstar Billy Graham, 272 pounds, out of Paradise Valley, Arizona, wearing the Arizona State shirt back then, the tie-dye. One thing about the Superstar, when he was champion, whether he wasn't champion, man, did that dude sell his ass off, and he was one hell of a promo. You could definitely say that about the Superstar. Say whatever's happened to him, how you remember your heroes and how he is today. Back then, Graham was ahead of his time, man. Let me tell you something. And he stole from a lot of different guys, too, whether it be Dusty, Muhammad Ali, Nature Boy, Buddy Rogers, whatever you want to say. I get it. But the crowd booed and hated the Superstar while he was the champion. It really was unbelievable how much heat he got as a champion, and then to go up against the Super Polish power from back in the day, 270 pounds, Ivan Putski, again, a walking stump. Krakow, Poland. You guys, if you don't know your history, research it. So this was the third bout of the night at the Garden, and it was the heavyweight championship. And Vince was ringside to do interviews. He did very rarely, but he did them on the ring apron, and he did one with Superstar Billy Graham. And it doesn't matter who started it, who said it, Dusty, Muhammad, the man of the hour, the man with the soul of power, the man who is too sweet to be sour, Stardust himself. You guys get it, right? And then actually some mat work in this bout between Superstar and Putski. And again, imagine trying to follow the championship match, no matter who you are, no matter what kind of star you are, trying to follow these two guys. and especially the crowd reaction for Putski. I told you about the ethnicity and the melting pot and what goes on there in the garden for back in the day and all over the Northeast. Different than down south. It really was. The crowd reactions were insane. Chaos, pun intended. Go back and check it out. Follow along here with me. Again, this is the 8th episode in the order of there on the network. And we're going to continue with this. And again, Putski, aggressive with the punches and the forearms. And he hit Graham with a Polish hammer that knocked Superstar, again, selling his ass off, out of the ring. That double axe handle Polish hammer for back then. It'll knock this shit out of you, man. And it really was something how Putski got the crowd going. Just insane. And the bottom line was here, there was a back 13 minutes, let me get this right, 13 minutes, 50 seconds in, Graham throws Putski off the ropes, a back body drop, and Putski, for as big as he was and back then, took the back body drop over the top rope, and he got counted out, and Superstar got the win as the champion, retained the belt, and you could see the different endings that you wouldn't see nowadays in 2023. And I'm not saying they were all good. I'm not saying how much better it was. I'm just giving you the history here. The full Nelsons, the test of strengths, the bear hugs, the body slams, when moves meant something. And again, a simple count out. And to see the aggressiveness of Putski and that Polish hammer and the way Graham sold it. So 13 minutes, 50 seconds, count out. Graham retains the WWWF heavyweight title. And we move on to the next bout. Sit back, and a former AWA heavyweight champion is coming up next. Cheers, a little Red Bull. Got to kick it in, right? 245 pounds out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and one legit tough son of a bitch. Vern Gagne in Madison Square Garden, taking on a big bastard at over 300 pounds, 317 pounds, from Mongolia at that point. Serbia, Russia, Mongolia, Nikolai Volkov. And of course, you know what you get with Volkov, even back then. Big, huge, in shape, one legit badass. The knees, the boots, the forearms, the power moves, the kicks, the backbreaker that Volkov was known for. But Gagne with the leg sweeps, the hammer locks, the right hands that Gagne also had. The mat work. We know Gagne's past in the AWA and all the guys he trained in the territory he ran, but even the leg locks, the chops from Gagne, he was a legit tough guy. Small package for the win. No offense, Mancini. A small package for the win. Vern Gagne, 7 minutes, 10 seconds over the big Mongolian. Let that sink in. Vern Gagne still at his time here in the summer of 77, taking on a much younger and badass and bigger Nikolai Volkov. But Gagne was as double tough as they come. So we move on in episode 8. Old School here on Chaos Corner. Thanks for being here, everyone. Let's move on to the 5th match of the night. We'll keep it quick. We'll upload these. We got more episodes here in the bank. So we move on in Madison Square Garden, 1977, August 29th, with the world's strongest man at that point, Olympian Ken Patera, with Captain Louis Albano, and you know the connection with the late, great Lou Albano and the G.O.C. Big Daddy. Let's not get into it. 297 pounds from Portland, Oregon, wearing the white warm-up suit with the Olympic insignia on the back, and he was a medalist in the Pan American Games in '72, as he takes on in a Texas death match, one fall to a finish, and he wasn't the champion, but on the same card as what you just saw, the champion, Billy Graham against Putski. Here Patera takes on, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, via Abruzzi, Italy. 250 pounds. He got a little bigger, a little more bulked up here in 77. Bruno Sammartino. You know my connection there as well. Took over as commissioner, longest in history, over 20 years. Legendary Bruno Sammartino. It doesn't get much better than that. I'm just letting you know the personal connection. That's what you get here on Chaos Corner. Live to tape. You know what you get with Patera, and he, again, back for the day when a legit badasses ended up going on to being in the strongman contest and all that. It doesn't get much better than Ken Patera, especially back here. You know, he even did a leapfrog in this match, a standing leapfrog. Ken Patera at 297 pounds. Let that marinate. The body slams, the elbows, the full Nelson, slugging it out with Bruno. Even putting, giving Bruno the low blow. And again, I've always said this about San Martino. I was talking to Mancini earlier today. Bruno was not known as the greatest wrestler, but he fought fire with fire, and he fired up. And yeah, he had his moments with just the right hands and the bear hugs and the body slams and the different few things that Bruno did, but you couldn't make up for the crowd reaction, the passion, his stamina, his strength. I'll say that to say this about Bruno Sammartino. And what I noticed beforehand here in 77, the summer of 77, one of the few times I saw Bruno in the corner kneel down a little prayer before this bout. I like to see that good Christian man, the late great Bruno Sammartino. I didn't really see that a lot. And of course, his big right hands, the big knees, he used that a lot, using the ropes a lot, the big boots, the chin locks, the atomic knee drop that he was known for. Not as aggressive here in summer of 77, maybe. He would end up winning the title back against the superstar sooner or later. We'll get onto that. But just different things that I noticed. At certain times, he laid off Graham a lot. Let Graham sell it and play it up when he could have been all over him, especially in the Texas Death Match. I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. The bottom line, 12 minutes, 13 seconds. Both shoulders were on the mat. Patera was down. Okay, Patera thought that he had his pinned, and if you remember this infamous bout, and Bruno also had his shoulders down at 2. The left shoulder came up, and Patera's were still down. Patera got up and thought he won this. Bruno, via the pin, something as simple as that as a finisher. There was a full Nelson. Patera had Bruno in the full Nelson. Bruno kicked off the turnbuckle. Some of the finishes back then in the 70s. And there it was, 12 minutes, 13 seconds for the pin, shoulder up last minute. And again, Patera thought he won the bout. So that was a good sell and a different finish. You don't see that. I'm not saying it's any better than what it is today, just different, using your mind, psychology, emotional investment. And again, look at the placement of the bout. This is basically a double main event with Superstar and Putski, and now Patera and Bruno Sammartino. And again, even with Albano, all the managers back in the day, they didn't stay at ringside. You escorted your guy. Psst, you beat feet. And again, the presence of the PD and the fans and kayfabe and just the reaction, legit. And we go into the final bout of the evening. Chief J Strongbow, right? That Indian, as Vince would say, 247 pounds, Pahuska, Oklahoma, against Mr. Fuji, Konnichiwa bitches, with the Hollywood fashion plate, classy Freddie Blassie. Again, look at how you have to follow the championship matches. And Tanaka, curiously, at ringside with crutches because he was injured, and actually came out to ringside before he went back with Blassie. And we'll get on Toru Tanaka and feature shows here in this series of Old School WWWF. So Tanaka at ringside with Blassie, escorting Mr. Fuji, Osaka, Japan, 275 pounds, much larger back then, Fuji. And you know what you get with Fuji. The chops, the karate kicks, the nerve holds, the pressure points, the martial arts. You get that. And for one of the few times before he went backstage, Blassie actually got involved and attacked the Chief and used the cane, and they double teamed him to begin with. You never saw that back then. Not like that. It was rare if you did see it. So that's one of the things that I did know about that. And of course, Fuji, the traditional salt, and the Orientals, as Vince McMahon would say back then, politically correct or not, traditional at begging off and selling. You really have to give the heels a lot of credit back then. Chief J, the way he fires up, I told you, he did it long before Hogan or any of the guys in the golden era or the 80s or 90s, the Attitude Era. The big back body drop, himself with the chops, the knife edge, the infamous sleeper hold, and the dance, ooh, the knee lifts. Again, you know what you got with Chief. He didn't look like much physically, but again, the gimmick, the Native American, the Indian gimmick, and the way he fired up, There wasn't many people, and then do that war dance. The crowd popped like you wouldn't believe, and they really did for Strongbow and White Wolf back then. I told you the melting pot and the ethnicities. That's what you got back in the 70s. This ended up, believe it or not, it went to the curfew because in New York with that damn state athletic commission, I've said it 100 times, they actually went to the curfew. And it's the first time, like I said, that I saw a manager really interfere here in the 70s. And this match ended up being a draw, a curfew draw because of the New York State Athletic Commission. And you see that a lot in these bouts back in the 70s when they have the curfew and they go to the time limit or to a finish. And it's really never the main event or the main attraction. It's always the follow-up bouts and the different placement here in the history. Old School. Chaos Corner with the G.O.C. Come on back. We have plenty more. Spread the word. Don't you dare miss it.